Back in the 70s, board games and improv theater had a baby, and it was called the role-playing game. These games allowed a generation of kids to live out their dreams of slaying dragons and saving kingdoms, all while sitting in their bedrooms and basements. Today, gaming has moved into the cultural mainstream, and role-playing games are back with a vengeance. Join us now as 5 of these former kids come out of the basement and onto the internet to experience adventure, mystery, and obscure pop culture references. It's time for Roll for Combat.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Roll for Combat, a Starfinder role-playing game actual play podcast. You're listening to the very first episode of our show, and I'm your host and game master, Stephen Glicker. And in this very first episode, you'll meet the 4 other players of our podcast. You'll get introduced to the Starfinder world and the Starfinder Society by our special NPC guest, Thurston Hillman. He's the developer for Starfinder Society of Organized Play from Paizo themselves. And right after that, we're going to jump right into the madness and start the Dead Sons adventure path. So once again, I wanted to thank you for coming and listening to our podcast. But before we begin, I kind of wanted to give you a little overview of what you could expect over the next several episodes, if not years, and why listen to us. There's so many of these shows out there. Well, first of all, you can never have too many of these shows, but more importantly, we've been playing role-playing games our entire lives, all 5 of us. And between the 5 of us, we have about 170 years of role-playing experience. I know that sounds insane, but it is actually true. We are a little bit older, so we have a lot of experience, and we've been playing this since we were itty-bitty little kids. So at this point, we basically know what we're doing, and we play a little bit probably more unorthodox than most players. We kind of challenge ourselves to do crazy things, which can make for interesting role-playing discussions and arguments between each other. Again, it's a fun time had by all. Second of all, we've been playing together for over a dozen years and through many, many adventure paths. We've played Age of Worms, Karen Crown, Kingmaker, Iron Gaunt, Strange Eons, as well as others. And we knew we had to jump into the new Starfinder adventure path right away because we couldn't let that go by. So with that, we've been together for about a dozen years. We've known each other even longer, and we've played on and off with each other for over 20 years, but together we've played about a dozen years. So when you have a group that tight, you're going to hear a lot of crazy antics, fun fights, rules lawyering, and pop culture references galore. You know, if you like to hear a bunch of friends play role-playing games and rip on each other endlessly, then you're probably going to like this show. Finally, we have a lot of connections into the gaming world. I myself used to have a podcast called Gaming Steve about 14 years ago, and John Statz, who's one of the players, worked at Blizzard and developed about 20 dungeons for World of Warcraft, and also worked a bit on Overwatch. So you'll get a unique look into the Pathfinder and Starfinder world and what we think about how the game is actually built and works from a game developer's point of view. Plus, something I like to do is I like to have NPCs, people from the game world or real world, come in and play NPCs as guests. So for tonight, we're actually starting up with Thirsty, who's going to be playing the contact for our players to the Starfinder Society. And I thought there's probably no one better to introduce them to the Starfinder Society than the man who literally runs the Starfinder Society. So something I wanted to explain is that today's episode is kind of a episode 0 in the sense that we go through a lot of the history of Starfinder and the Society and go through the worlds and how it's built through Thirsty. Since this world is so new to everyone, at this point it's only been out for about a month, I really thought it would be nice to get an insight of what to expect and to give the characters kind of an overview of what they would know from someone who literally developed the world for them. And so there's a little bit of an episode 0 feel to this. We introduce ourselves, introduce our characters, and introduce the world, and then we get started. But I felt this would also be interesting to anyone who just wants to play in the Starfinder universe, that they can get all this information that they normally couldn't get anywhere else. Finally, I wanted to thank everyone who's listening to this new podcast. We're going to be having a huge giveaway. We're going to be giving away over $800 in prizes, plus a special bonus prize to every single person who enters the contest. So what is this I'm talking about? Well, first of all, here's how it's going to work. There's a grand prize when the contest ends. You get a $250 Amazon gift card where you can buy as many role-playing books as you want for anything you want, plus a very special custom Roll for Combat t-shirt that I'm going to design specifically for you using the artwork that's created by our amazing artist on the site. First prize is a $100 Amazon gift card plus a t-shirt. Second prize is a $50 Amazon gift card plus a t-shirt. And third prize is a $25 Amazon gift card plus a t-shirt. But on top of that, because the contest doesn't end until the end of November, every single week, every single episode, I'm going to choose one entry and give them a $25 Amazon gift card for every show, every week. So all you need to do is enter, and you can win a $25 gift card every week. And then when the contest ends, you can win one of the 4 grand prizes, which is $250 or $100 or $50, $25 Amazon gift card. And by the way, every single person who enters will also get sent, at the end of the contest, custom role-playing content created by professionals, made specifically for the show and for use in your role-playing game campaign. You'll be emailed that at the end of the contest. The contest goes until November 30th, 2017. How do you enter? It couldn't be easier. All you need to do is go to the iTunes podcast page for our show, Roll for Combat, subscribe to the show, and write a review of it in iTunes and submit your review. After you've entered your review, all you need to do is just send us your email address and iTunes nickname. Whatever you used for the review, send that to contest@rollforcombat.com and you'll be entered. That's it. So basically just write a review of the show, anything you think of it, good, bad, otherwise. Email us your email address and your iTunes nickname so we can make sure that you did it. And you're entered. Just listen to the shows. If we call your name, you'll win the prize. We'll have it every show. The show's a weekly show. We already have several in the can, so we're not going anywhere. Don't worry, we're not going to resell your email addresses or do anything bad with it. That's it. So you're going to have, I guess, now about 10 weeks of prizes where you can win every week. And then at the end of the 10 weeks, we'll have the grand prize. So once again, if you like what you hear, subscribe to us on iTunes. You could also visit us at rollforcombat.com, where we have bios of all the characters, bios of the players. We have insanely amazing artwork that we're creating specifically for the show and will continue to create for the show. In addition to the podcast, you'll also be able to access articles that we're going to be adding to the website. Jason McDonald, who's one of the top Quora article writers on Quora, 5 years running, he's going to be creating a lot of the articles as well as many of the other players. So if there's anything you want us to cover, let us know and we'll try our best. So with that, let's get this show started and welcome to episode 1 of Roll for Combat. Hey everyone, welcome to our brand new campaign where we're going to be playing with the Starfinder rule set. This is the first new rule set that we played with since the original Pathfinder rule set from Paizo. We're going to be playing the Dead Sun's Adventure Path, which will take our characters from level 1 to 12. And before we will go around and introduce ourselves and who we're playing and what we're doing, I brought on a special guest. I thought, who better to introduce everyone to the world of Starfinder and, most importantly, Starfinder Society, in which your characters are going to join, than developer of Starfinder Society of Organized Play. From Paizo himself, I brought in Thurston Hillman, better known as Thirsty, to help us out.
Yay.
Hi, everyone.
Woohoo!
Wow. All right.
Welcome.
Welcome, Thirsty. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, boy. I got to read the rules now. Hold on.
No, you don't. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I make it up half the time, too. Don't worry. It's all good.
Developers drop loot, right? I mean, if we were actually to somehow beat you.
Oh, yeah.
I drop 1d4 plus 2 core rulebooks.
Excellent.
Now, do you actually take bribes?
That would be wrong. That would be wrong. I am not answering the question directly,
Yes.
but that would be wrong.
Fun fact, I actually did bribe Thirsty at PaizoCon this year to help us answer a trivia question, which he did, and then we lost the point because we bribed him. So, yeah.
It's true. Bribery doesn't pay, but it does get me a drink, so...
Well, if you're not cheating, then you don't care enough. So,
Tell that to the Red Sox.
yeah.
So I brought Thirsty in to play the dwarf Doravor Creel. He was the person who actually recruited all of you into the Starfinder Society, and I figured why not bring in the guy who literally runs the Starfinder Society to introduce us all into this world. So let's go over why you've even come to Absalom Station. You have come here to look for new opportunity. You need to find something new. Maybe you need a job, or might be running from someone or something, or perhaps you simply needed a change of pace or scenery. Whatever your reasons, you came across Doravor Creel's ad on your local infosphere, where he said to you,
Free transportation to Absalom Station. Absolutely no credits required. The Starfinder Society will pay the transportation costs for qualifying candidates. No obligation. Just attend a small meeting to discuss the opportunities available as a member of the most prestigious Explorer Society in the Packworld system.
An infosphere address after the advertisement put you in touch with a local travel agency that booked you on a transport. You gathered your personal belongings and made whatever arrangements you needed to make. Before long, you were seated in your transport, heading to Absalom Station and ready to begin a new phase in your life. After arriving within the station's sensor coverage, your transport moved into a holding position and waited for a charter shuttle to arrive and take you down to the docking bay. The shuttle captain told you that he'd been directed to hook you up at docking bay number 94, and the trip would take about an hour from the last pickup point. He then complained about how long his job has been taking because there's some weird quarantine zone that the port control goons put in place after the Pinhead lawyers resolved some dispute over the disposition of some salvage ship that showed up that had some weird stuff. Well, don't worry about that. Unfortunately, his comlink to the port station was open when they heard all that, and they took offense to the comments, and the captain quickly shut his cockpit door, so you only heard the muffled shouts and curses from the ensuing argument. Left to your own devices, you eyed the refreshment dispenser at the back of the cabin and sized up the other travelers who responded to Creel's offer.
I had heard they were going to serve a lunch.
Mo is getting up, and he's going to elbow his way to get at the drinks to see if any of these are, I'm going to see if any of them are alcoholic, whether or not any of them are free or just unguarded would be good enough for him. So that's what he's going to be doing.
It's like watered down coffee and stale donuts.
Oh, nothing valuable, nothing you can... Okay, all right.
Well, you say your name is Mo, and I just want to let you know, sir, I don't mind Vesk, even though you backstabbed us and betrayed us and invaded our entire, star system a while ago. Really, I'm just fine with y'all. So, hey, good to meet you.
Well, I apologize. I was quite a long time. Actually, I say the Marines, but it was more like the Army. I was kind of in the rear, making sure everybody had their ammo, but
In the rear with the gear, as they say.
yeah,
Right?
in the rear with the gear, making sure. But
Doing
honestly,
the sort of job that can be easily replaced by robots.
you guys are making you're so easy to conquer. But let's see.
So you're saying you didn't specifically yourself slaughter all of our races. You simply worked hard to facilitate others to slaughter all of our races.
So why don't you guys all go around, introduce yourselves, who you are in real life, and who your characters are.
You with the things sticking out of your head.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, my real name is Chris. I am originally from Brooklyn, New York, but I live in New Jersey now. And as far as Greek geek cred, as it were, I've been a gamer for a long time. Started with basic Dungeons and Dragons, first edition Dungeons and Dragons, and pretty much every TSR product from their Boot Hill, Top Secret, and even some obscure ones like the Morrow Project. And have been waiting for a science fiction game that is better than Gamma World. And it's been a long wait. Traveler was good. I did play Traveler. It was the Zanti High Lightning, and which was awesome, but a very long time ago. So, I love all things in the holy trinity of science fiction, fantasy, and horror, of course. Video games, World of Warcraft, card games, gambling, you name it. I like it.
So, who are you playing? What is your character?
All right, so my character is, I can read you my description, but I am a Lashunta Hirogi, which is there's two different species of Lashunta. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I guess in the course of our hour-long trip, I'll sort of this will come out in conversation that I grew up on Castroval, which is the home planet of my race. It's not easy, even if you have a family. But Hirogi had to survive on his wits and stealth to survive the many predators that populated the areas where he, as an outcast orphan, found himself. Hirogi struggled to stay 10 steps ahead of the fauna that sought to make dinner of him daily. Eventually, through wits, stealth, and in no small measure luck, Hirogi managed to find himself in one of the larger city-states on the planet, and he thrived there. Now that he was not constantly being hunted, he could devote his time to honing his skills as a petty sneak thief and general all-around rogue. All the time, the thoughts of being hunted lingered, and he vowed to venture out as a man and destroy those vermin that had hunted him. It was no surprise that at his ascension to manhood, he became Dameya and not the crude Karasha. He was charismatic and quick. Hirogi caught the attention of a trained operative who he had the misfortune of trying to pickpocket. And instead of calling the authorities or worse, Darwin took him into the fold and trained him in the stealthy arts. After being a good earner for 3 years, Darwin set him up with some basic equipment and bid him good luck to seek his fortune among the stars. However, Hirogi had some unfinished business to take care of in the areas outside of Castroval. Thus began the great hunt. Hirogi was relentless in his pursuit of his predators of his homeworld. Having tracked down and killed each one, a trophy is taken commemorating victory. With his lust for revenge on his childhood tormentor sated, Hirogi ventured back to the city-state. It is at this time that he started to study the other life forms in the vast reaches of the galaxy. It's important to understand every aspect of life and what to expect, as this allows you to more easily prove that you are better than they are. Hirogi now seeks to explore the galaxy as hunter, ever searching for challenging new prey. That's my deal.
Better than we are?
Yes.
Don't
Who's that
worry
dreamy
about
fella?
I'm just an everyday guy, and just because, look, I'm human and we're on a human ship and we're headed to a human station where humans are rightfully the dominant species, I want you all to treat me just like a normal guy. You don't need to defer to me. At any rate,
God, he's a country musician.
my name's Rusty Carter. Look, I'm just headed to Absalom Station after, doing some little work at some of the outer space stations and out of, some of the outer colonies I visited. Various types of work. It's not really that important. You may have noticed I rushed on board kind of at the last minute with no luggage, but that's just because I really want to get to Absalom Station. I wasn't in a hurry for any particular reason. That's fine. Beyond that, though, the player, me, would be Bob. And like Chris, I actually started playing with the original basic D&D set, I think either 5th or 6th grade, when my older brother came home one day and had a little box with a bunch of things in it. I had just finished reading The Lord of the Rings for the first time, I think, and found a new thing with orcs in it. And therefore, I was absolutely fascinated with it. And I cannot say I've played every TSR game. I skipped D&D version 2 with prejudice. Everything else, though, I've played ever since, including all these 20 games.
Cool. John, you want to introduce yourself next?
Yeah, my name is John Stats. I guess my great geek cred is basically I used to be a developer for World of Warcraft for 10 years, and I've always liked making games more than playing them. My role-playing experience, I want to say, started in the 70s, but I don't know if I got the game in 79 or 80. It's a little bit too far back. But I started out playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I spent most of my time authoring homemade modules. After my group, when they were bored, they would read the store-bought modules, much to my chagrin, and so I had to actually write my own. So that was kind of how I got into computer game development, just fleshing out, as a level designer, I guess. My new, my character, I'm playing Mo Dupinsky. Most people call him Mo. He's been saddled with a pretty rotten name, and so his army buddies just went straight to the derivative, call him Mo. And right now, his army days, which he basically refers to as his glory days now. He left the army 2 early. He didn't realize that he had it good. Now he's trying to just make a honest buck like any other person. And, it's a little bit harder that he's a little bit older. He's getting back into mercenary, having been turned away from the crime world. He's too incompetent and too bad has terrible judgment and worse luck. So all the criminals on Vesk Prime pretty much turn him away and say, his name isn't very good on the streets. So he's going back into the mercenary world, and he got this offer for free transport, and that's kind of the that's kind of the price he can afford at this point. So he's looking for his easy score, first big score, so that's his deal.
All right, and to round things out, I'm Jason McDonald. Sometimes people end up calling me Jay, so either they're interchangeable. I'm from Pittsburgh, the Paris of Pennsylvania. I'm playing Dr. Tuttle Blacktail. He is a Isoki mechanic. He is kind of a distillation of Write What You Know, the sort of technical, IT guy who has all sorts of technical prowess but makes up for it with limited people skills. He's kind of a junior researcher at a think tank on Verces, and he has to kind of, supplement. He doesn't get his projects don't get funded very often, so he has to supplement his income by going out and doing, as it were, field research. So, and accompanying him is the cybernetic hybrid dynamic response rover, also known as Cheddar. He's big, he's yellow, he hits things with a stick. So he's kind of the personal bodyguard and also field test for Tuttle's AI designs. And he has some non-disclosure forms that he'd like you all to sign, just in case, because you're going to be seeing some proprietary tech, and he doesn't want to actually share any of the patent rights with you.
Oh, I'd be happy to sign anything. Don't you worry. Just hand that paperwork over here, and I'll look through it.
So, last but not least, I am Stephen Glicker. I am the GM and the host for this game. I've been playing role-playing games for 40 years. I actually started in 1977. I got the Blue Box edition. And what I remember vividly from that is that there were no dice in it. It actually came with this laminated card. And what you had to do is cut out little numbers. The card had numbers like 1 through 20. And you had to literally cut out the numbers, put them into a cup, and then pull out the numbers from the cup. And that's how you rolled the dice back then. And it was really, really hard to do. The numbers were impossible to pull out of the cup. But since then, I've played pretty much every single version of D&D. I played Traveler. Actually, my favorite game of all time is Toon, for those of you who ever played that game. That game is fantastically goofy. I played a ton of Pathfinder. I've done so many adventure paths. That's my thing. I love to do adventure paths. We did Age of Worms, and we did Karen Crown. We did Kingmaker. Doing Iron Gods now. We started Strange Eons. We've just done tons and tons of those, and we wanted to do something new. I love Pathfinder, but I've seen a lot of it, and I've been dying to do science fiction. It's one of the reasons we actually even did Iron Gods. So once this came about, we decided right away that we were going to do it, and I played and ran a lot of it at Gen Con and thought it was just fantastic, and can't wait to see where this all goes. So with that being said, I wanted to ask Thirsty if he could introduce everyone to the Starfinder Society and give a little background of what you know about the society and what to expect now that you are going to become members.
Yeah, so the Starfinder Society, if any of you are familiar with Pathfinder, there's the Pathfinder Society. The Starfinder Society is a similar organization that's a group of explorers in space who are searching the known and unknown galaxy to find interesting things, to chart the temporal edges of the big Starfinder mystery, which is known as the Gap, which is basically a period of time that has disappeared. During that time, the planet of Galarian, where Pathfinder is based on, also disappeared. So that was a big push for the Starfinder Society originally. It has since shifted its focus a bit away from that, since there isn't a lot of information on the Gap, and now is acting more as like a general exploration and research organization.
So didn't something really terrible just happen to the Starfinder Society recently?
Well, the Starfinder Society, as we start off, is actually going through a really, really rough time. Just a couple months ago, the Starfinder Society lost 80% of its membership and most of its assets and resources in a massive undertaking to a star system called the Scoured Stars. This big expedition went there. They were sent there under their leader, the First Seeker, which is sort of the elected leader of the Starfinder Society. That First Seeker led the Starfinder Society into the Scoured Stars, and shortly after they arrived, all communication with the Starfinders there was lost, and a giant gold force field appeared around the star system, not admitting anyone in or letting anything out. And it has been several months since then, and no sign of anyone getting into that star system or any word on what happened to pretty much all of the Starfinders.
Nice. I like that. So they need new recruits.
Absolutely. They have just managed to sort of hold on to their organizations through the efforts of one Luazi El Sebo, who she has come on to take the title of nominated first speaker, sort of keeping the society together in the aftermath of this disaster. As a bit of a personal promotional plug, all of the Scoured Stars storyline is sort of what starts off our organized play campaign. So for those of you who go to Gen Con or other major conventions, think of the Scoured Stars incident and sort of this big loss. Imagine a table of 1,000+ players at Gen Con, except they lost. That's where the campaign starts.
That's great. I love that.
And you can find more information about sort of that storyline through the organized play campaign, which I think you guys might be dipping your toes into that at some point, but even Dead Suns sort of ties into a bit of that as well.
So you're saying our odds of survival are bleak?
If you want money, the Starfinder Society can certainly pay you.
I like the sound of that.
We're used to bleak.
Ignore all the stuff about next of kin at the bottom of the form.
Awesome.
Actually, one question about that, though. What happens when someone tries to take the drift inside of the golden sphere around the star system?
It is entirely inaccessible. Ships simply do not phase back into the star system. They end up basically on the outskirts of this golden energy field.
Cool.
So wait, what were they doing there in the first place?
The previous First Seeker, a Kasatha by the name of Jednura, discovered a very powerful artifact that defied all sorts of investigation, and eventually led him to the Scoured Stars, where he undertook a big mission and convinced basically 80% of the society to follow him.
And they were never heard from again.
Yeah, and it's only been, and that's another thing, it has only been just a few months since that.
So you're saying there's some job openings?
Correct.
Which is why you guys are advertising like crazy, because you need to fill the ranks. Everywhere you go, everywhere you look, there is an ad for Starfinder Society where they will pay you well.
What was that part about paying?
Yeah, I like that part, and I also, as long as it leads me to places where I can hunt, then I'm good with that.
The Starfinder Society offers credits to all of its agents as long as they are willing to perform missions on behalf of the society. They get to have access to the equipment they find and get a very, very modest, or very, very reasonable, I should say, pay from the society.
Oh, there it goes with the reasonable. All right.
Reasonable.
Sounds good to me.
So let me see if we got this straight. We have Mo, who is Worf. We have Hirogi, who is Julian Bashir. We have Tuttle, who is Miles O'Brien. And then we have Rusty, who is Vic Fontaine.
I like that reference.
No,
I would go with perhaps some other version, but okay, sure.
I didn't actually prepare an accent, so I'm not sure I could go with that. Though I got elements of season 1 stuffy, full of himself Bashir, though, too. I don't know.
Well, you guys could also be the A-team. You have Mo as B.A. Baracus. You have Hirogi as Hannibal. You have Tuttle as Mad Murdoch. And then Rusty is, of course, Face.
I'm totally Face. There's no question about that.
Is the name Tuttle from Brazil? Is that where that's coming from?
Not intentionally.
It's a MASH reference.
I was just looking for something that sounded kind of mousy, I guess, and that's where I ended up settling.
Yeah. The original reference comes from MASH. Tuttle.
Oh, that does sound familiar.
Yeah, it's the non-existent
Right.
doctor.
Yes.
I can't remember what. Yeah, that was just the fake name that they just made up on the spot. I always thought that Brazil got it from MASH.
Excellent.
Since we have the guy who is literally the almanac for Starfinder Society sitting at our table today, do we have any additional questions about the society or the pack worlds or the system, since we have the guy who literally wrote the book sitting here?
I absolutely did not write the book on this. That would be Owen Casey Stevens who wrote the article.
Well, I don't know about Absalom Station much. I have limited life experience of being on my planet, which is quite nice. But I mean, from what I understand, it's basically a floating city, right, in orbit.
Absolutely. It occupies the space where Galarian once orbited the sun.
Ah, nice.
Can we have a moment of silence for Galarian?
You'll be having lots of moments of silence for it.
Is Zon around?
I got a handout.
Yes, I sent you a handout of what Absalom Station looks like.
Oh, yes.
That's
the
cool.
second one there.
I keep meaning to ask, which side of it faces the sun?
It's a Boston album cover is what it is.
It rotates gradually. Sometimes the bottom, sometimes the top.
Well, that's a perfectly reasonable answer, actually.
It's not like Dark City.
Dark City. I was just going to say Dark. Trying to think of what was that movie? That's great.
Is there any way that I can go down to the depths and become a god?
Oh, that's a thought, right?
Yeah.
The star.
That's
Starstone
12th level.
in Starfinder isn't specifically called out as doing that anymore. Instead, the Starstone on Absalom Station fulfills a very different role, which is it allows for super fast drift travel. So if you are anywhere in the drift and you want to go to Absalom Station, it is a very quick trip to Absalom Station from anywhere in the galaxy.
That's interesting.
So the planet
invaders?
disappeared, but the Starstone stayed there. That's
Correct.
Wow, I like that.
Are invaders or attackers able to use the benefit of the Starstone to come here and attack us?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
I'm sure Absalom Station's very well liked and heavily defended.
Heavily defended is an excellent term for it, yes.
Well, it looks like a great land of opportunity. I'm game, and it looks like there might be lots of prey there. What are the laws? Am I allowed to? We're all carrying weapons, right? So.
Oh, yeah.
Is it open carry legal?
In a lot of places, open carry is completely fine. There's a lot of dangerous stuff going on in the galaxy right now. You might not say get away with walking around with a full machine gun at a dinner party, but something like a pistol, a sword, even in a lot of cases, rifles are completely acceptable.
So it's kind of like the Old West almost.
Absolutely. And again, that's just more for Absalom Station. It depends really what part of the station you're in.
So you wouldn't say it's necessarily a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
I would suggest certain parts of it would fit that cantina view. Yes.
The lawyers would prefer you not say that.
Correct.
I don't think they're going to allow Cheddar, his kind.
Well, that's where are the directions to that place? Because I think that's more of our likes, where we're going. That cantina feel.
Well,
Isn't the Starfinder Society in the nicest part of the station?
Absolutely. They're in a section of the station called the Lorespire Complex.
All right. Well, and we're going to be headed there first, I think, because we're going to see what opportunities are available to us. But I would like to know, in addition to any resources, does the Starfinder Society have any pull with the local constabulary? The stewards, I believe they're called.
Absolutely. One thing about the Scoured Stars incident was that it really, really hit the Starfinder Society's social and political clout. Since they lost so many resources, they simply do not have the pull that they used to, which is not to say that they don't have pull. But a lot of these organizations, they're a bit more sheepish about going to and asking for help, especially because they've been asking for help for the past several months to keep the society going. So while they do have it, they kind of reserve that pull for important circumstances.
So brand new recruits don't get like a PBA card that they can show to the cops and get out of jail free or like walk off tickets?
Absolutely not. However, if characters had, some really cool background that maybe they want to get in touch with organizations, or maybe they want to get records deleted of stuff they've done in the past, well, doing a couple missions for the Starfinder Society might make the society more inclined to help those players out.
Does that interest you, Rusty? You sound like you might have some issues.
Oh, no, just the opposite. I've got some friends myself with quite a number of different groups. And so, I was just wondering if we had friends in common, that's all.
Okay. I just like to know who I'm traveling with.
I've been meaning to ask, are those things from your head, do you use them if you're going to go traveling into a tunnel? You send your antenna in first to see if it's wide enough for the rest of your body to follow?
Are you saying you're taking a bet on what those antennae are for?
Yeah, I'm just checking.
He actually uses them to hold his comm unit to take selfies.
Well, I mean, we live in a vast galaxy with lots of different races. You do realize that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this an independent station? Is it allied with, do the Vesk have any, I don't want to say autonomy. I don't know what the word would be. Are there local areas of the station that are under different type of governorships, or?
Well, Absalom Station is certainly part of the Pact Worlds, which is basically the federation of all the planets in the Galarian system who've sort of banded together originally to fight off the Veskarium, and now the greater threat that has recently come up of the Swarm, this race of insect related to the Shiran's history. The Vesk certainly have a role in Absalom Station, and they constitute about 3% of the station's population. And considering the station is about 2 million people, that's still a good chunk. They do have a fair bit of presence in some of the areas, particularly one ethnic enclave called the Vesk Quarter.
Yeah. Well, we're so big. I mean, we can't help but have a presence. So you know.
But as far as like autonomy and stuff, the Absalom Station is firmly part of the Pact Worlds, which is a different overall empire than the Veskarium.
Right.
Let it go, Jake. It's the Vesk Quarter.
So weren't the Vesk like the bad guys that we were at war with for a long time until something much worse came about, and now we are friends with them, sort of? Is it kind of like Russia or like the Cardassians?
Kind of like the Klingons. They're kind of like Klingons, I think.
We can't help it. We can't help it.
There are elements of all of those things. Yes.
So we're not at war with them currently, but we will be.
You better hope you won't be.
I really hope we don't
The only
have a
good
war
dead,
with the
the only good
Veskarium.
Vesk is a dead. Oh wait, sorry, never mind.
I really hope we don't have a war with the Veskarium, because we would tear so many player groups apart with that, since the Vesk are a core race. That sounds like a great idea. Excuse me.
You know what I love about the Vesk is they're really original in their planet naming. They have like Vesk 1, Vesk 2, Vesk 3. They just keep using numbers on all their planets.
Any planet they conquer just gets added to the greater Vesk numbering system.
We're advancing mathematics. What can we say?
They're a simple but proud people.
Vesk don't have time to name planets. They don't got time for names. They don't got time to bleed. So what about the Raft folk? What's their deal?
Yeah, do my people have a good presence on this place?
The Ysoki, yeah, they certainly do. They have, let's see, wow, they are 9% of the population.
But in weight, that's like half of what the Vesk's 3% is. So you could go by tonnage.
They operate out of several different areas in the station, but there's a specific section called Bot Scrap, which is essentially the biovats and recyclers breaking stuff down. The Ysoki work out of a large salvage union that they operate, where they basically collect spare parts and build crazy things, often to deal with gangs of goblin squatters.
So wait, the goblins go after the Ysoki?
Well, more like the Ysoki build cool robots to go after the goblins.
Excellent. They have goblins. I like that.
I'll need to go take some notes there, I think.
Wow, that is really cool. So what about the Lashunta? What about those guys?
Yes. The Lashunta are quite advanced.
They're about 7% of the station. Like, considering their homeworld is in the same system, that's still pretty good. They don't necessarily have they don't have like Lashunta Town or anything in Absalom Station. They're just more of a mingled group, since again their homeworld is in the same system. Much as the Yosoki have a really strong presence on Akaton, the red planet.
And what about this last one? I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Hillman? Is that it?
No, you gotta go with Hillman.
The
I'm at a human 75% probably.
46% of the station, so roughly half of the station.
Well, I mean, it's our station, but we are we're a generous species, and we accept the rest of you, are okay.
Stupid breeding race.
Okay, excellent.
And is there a Chipotle? That's the important question.
Oh, 15 at least.
I hear tell that there is some sort of, that's not exactly a planet also, but it's a large colony ship somewhere around here.
Correct. That belongs to the one of the new races to Starfinder, the Kasatha, who also showed up in Pathfinder in some material. But the Kasatha, their colony ship, the Idari, has sort of taken up position within the Pact World solar system after coming to colonize the planet and realizing, oh damn, there's people here. Guess we can't do that. Or we could try, but it would be a very bad idea.
So that's the 4-armed race?
Correct.
Okay.
What's the deal with them covering their mouths all the time? What's that?
Funny work story. We recently had to have a talk about that and be like, well, we don't want to determine mouth canon just yet, so it's still a mystery.
Wow, that's really cool. So what's going on with this Eox and the entire world of undead? What the heck's going on there?
Absolutely.
Undead are sentient. Why not?
Undead are sentient, and they are in Starfinder compared to Pathfinder. You will find that just because a creature is undead does not mean it's evil.
Oh, that's interesting.
So there is a very different view on alignment. You'll see, and a lot less of an emphasis on alignment in Starfinder.
Is that a player race?
No, it is not.
Oh.
You want to be an undead?
I loved it. Absolutely. Yeah.
I would have issues with that.
So wait, could we have undead paladins?
Well, paladin isn't a class, so wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I forgot that the new Starfinder classes aren't limited by alignment. Damn you, Pathfinder, for polluting my brain.
And yet, Iomida is still
There
around.
we go. Okay, I can talk about this. Shameless plug this second. The Starfinder Pact Worlds hardcover book that releases in March 2018 will have a new playable race, including the Undead Eoxian.
Whoa, that's excellent.
Nice.
You heard it here.
Wow, that's awesome. So, John, what I'll do is when that comes out, I'm going to kill off your character, and then you can come back as Mo the Undead Vest.
Oh,
John's going to start taking a lot of needless risks right around that time.
that's right.
I mean,
what?
you don't have to wait that
Right?
long. You can just use some of the undead rules that I'm sure will be appearing in Alien Archive next month. Bam!
Hey.
Okay, sorry. I swear I'm done the shameless plug.
That's all right. I mean, we're going to buy everything anyway.
Yeah.
That's actually a fantastic idea because it's actually pretty hard to resurrect in Starfinder, much harder than Pathfinder. And if you could actually come back as an undead character, that would be freaking fantastic.
Might be the most popular character class.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Everyone could be undead. Everyone could start off alive and then end up undead.
Well, I mean, there's undead and there's undead. I mean, there's zombie and there's vampires. There's a big difference.
And you'll see a lot of like different races, and we've talked about like with Alien Archive. I think we have 20 plus playable races in it.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
Because one of the goals of Starfinder is to make more things playable. Because aliens are cool, and being able to play aliens is cool.
Okay, for a
Agreed.
spoiler,
It's smart.
any Dark Tapestry races?
There is Dark Tapestry stuff present in the book.
Okay.
Yeah. Spoilers, Bob.
I
Spoilers.
put spoiler up
Bob,
front.
don't spoil it.
The king crybaby of spoilers. Oh my!
So let me get this straight. We're going to play like levels 1 and 2. Alien Archive's going to come out. Everyone's going to die or suicide their characters, and then they're all going to come back as these new cool races.
Ro will be able to lose his gut finally.
And then you'll make it to March, and then all the new stuff, the new cool options in the Pact Worlds book will be out, and then they'll have the second TPK of the game.
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent.
You know, that's actually not such a bad idea.
It's a terrible idea.
You know, you guys can just keep dying and then moving your consciousness into other races and beings like Dax from Star Trek.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
you don't
concerned
want to
it's hard to improve upon perfection of the Lashunta, so there you go.
On the other hand, every once in a while, if an ongoing story is happening, hey, a dramatic death definitely moves the plot along.
Absolutely.
Well, this is why we need to play Starfinder Society, so we can try out all these cool new races and classes, and since we have an inn, maybe we can even get some of the new sessions early. Maybe?
Fancy that.
And then we could all go to Gen Con.
Nice.
Actually, I already go to Gen Con every year. You guys are the ones that need to go to Gen Con.
I know. I think I'm going to.
Actually, what you guys need to do is also go to Paizo Con, because Paizo Con was awesome. A close second to Gen Con. Very different, but man, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, very different events.
Actually, PaizoCon probably be more my. It's less. I'm sure it's less crowded, right? Gen Con's a zoo. I imagine.
Is a zoo. And PaizoCon's a lot more focused on Pathfinder.
Yeah,
Pathfinder.
I like that.
So any final hints and tips that we should know about Starfinder for those people who have played about 1,000 sessions of Pathfinder combined easily?
I mean, Starfinder at its core is a very similar game. You will notice most things are pretty much the same. There are, however, differences, and I always like stressing that there are differences, particularly with lots of small things. And you want to pay attention and be sure to read the rules, but also know that getting the rules wrong doesn't matter. You learn what's changed and you add it in as you get to it. So to anyone listening, don't be emailing the hosts of, well, you missed this bonus if they made it this type of attack, because you're gonna be learning this, and all tables are going to be doing that, especially players who come from Pathfinder.
Yeah, stick around though. We do have some pretty epic rules lawyer fights.
You're saying if I accidentally kill the rat by shooting it in the back of the head, it's okay. It's just one of those things we learn from.
Yeah. What I would say is, again, like small things, I would say pay attention to things you may be used to from Pathfinder, like charging. Charging is now a penalty to hit and a penalty to your armor class, so there's no bonus for charging except for getting more speed. Things like a 5-foot step are different now in how they work. It is now a move action. And even things like step up is a reaction, which is an entirely new type of action you have.
Yeah, it kind of replaces like an immediate action, I'm guessing, right?
In some cases, it's things like taking attacks of opportunity and certain spells like, on an immediate. But all those sorts of things are very different, and they take some getting used to. One thing that I will also stress, because I've been seeing a lot from my position, especially as we're coming out with our first scenarios, people often get really scared when they get hit and take damage. And Starfinder is a game where you're going to get hit and you're going to take damage. More than Pathfinder, even the base math behind monsters and NPCs, which, by the way, is no longer the same structure that players use to build their characters. Monsters and NPCs are built using a different set of rules. You'll often find that certain enemies you encounter have, they sure do have a 70% chance of hitting me and doing damage. And you really need to start using things like cover, some of the new actions like harrying fire and whatnot to get a tactical advantage. But also realize that death is not quite as brutal as it used to be in Pathfinder either.
Running away and leaving my party to die, is that still a viable strategy?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the way that they've done the hit point change is, I think, fantastic with the stamina points, and it's sort of like your temporary hit point buffers, and then once that's to 0, you start taking real damage. Like, right? That's how it works, I think, right?
Yeah.
Where it's that I think is great because obviously in Pathfinder, one of the things that you come across a lot is you really have to have some source of healing constantly. You sort of have to have a cure light wounds wand, even at very low levels. And I guess there is sort of artificial healing in technological devices, but having that buffer and then being able to rest with resolve points to make that buffer go back to its full is great. I think it works really well. I think that's a good sort of elegant fix to that.
And one final thing, because you bring up resolve points and resting, always be mindful of your resolve points. You can use them to rest outside of combat, which gets you all your stamina back. Sure is awesome. Resolve points are also your awesome pool. So if you remember, Pathfinder had about 6 or 7 different class pools like Chi or
Grit,
Panache
right,
or Grit. Yeah. It's all resolved now.
Yeah.
So it is your pool of I can do an awesome thing. However, the third part of that is it's also the pool that when you are taken down to 0 hit points and dying, it's resolve that's going to save your life. So you kind of have to balance, if I do all these cool actions repeatedly, I don't have any of these points, and then a lucky shot takes me down. I might be dead. So things that are just different, and you want to keep those on your head. Because I would like to see you characters survive for more than a session.
Yeah, that is the goal. Well, I'm going to hide behind the vest. That's always a good place to cover.
That is also a great strategy.
That seems like a good idea, yeah.
A lot of us can fit behind that vest.
So I just wanted to say, both to you guys and the listeners, is that this is not normal session for us. This is almost like a session 0 where we're going over not just the characters and who we are and what we're playing, but to even go over the universe since it's completely brand new and we have access to Thirsty. I wanted to go over not just what to expect in this world and this universe, but to know how it's different from Pathfinder since we played that so much and other fantasy role-playing games. And this is really probably the first science fiction role-playing game I've played in probably 30 years since the original Traveler, if not longer.
Well, the most important thing is that the monsters are...
Except they do have goblins, which I like. Space goblins.
Oh, but they're space goblins, though. You don't know their way. You don't know technology.
I know if they can bleed, then they can die. That's what I know.
And there's dwarves and elves in all the other original Pathfinder races, too.
Are there elves? I've seen dwarves in the others.
Sure are.
Okay.
They're
on the list of any population. All right.
They're a bit more insular than they were even previously, but they hang out on Castrovel.
All right.
So final thing, Thirsty, and then we're going to start playing the actual session, is like, what would you recommend for both my players and listeners who are starting with Starfinder that you saw at Gen Con that you would recommend people to know about? One thing I noticed when I was GMing a Gen Con is because iterative attacks are gone, that monsters hit really, really hard now, and my PCs were stunned when they were basically almost one-shotted from a single attack pretty regularly.
Yeah, I think it's important, and it goes kind of what we were just talking about with Starfinder's new. So, I can't reverse engineer the stat block on this creature because I know what level of spell, so what DC it's got. There isn't as much of that, and in fact, there's really none of that in Starfinder when you're fighting NPCs and enemy creatures. So, in a lot of cases, you'll get that initial surprise of something. One thing I've seen a lot of, and kind of talking on Gen Con, boy, I sure saw players who got freaked out when they were playing their first level mission, and one of the enemies had a +10 bonus to hit. Yeah, that can happen.
Yep.
It's going to be scary, but I think players are going to start to ease into that and understand that, yeah, you're going to take hits in this game, and how you deal with that is going to be pretty important. Now that I've put the fear of God into you.
We're all going to die! We're all going to die!
Oh, boy!
Is there a My Little Pony role-playing game we can play instead?
I would totally play that.
Are you a brony? Really?
No, I'm not a brony.
I've been meaning to ask, will horses and ponies become a playable race in March? That's what I wanted to know.
I do not know. I am unfamiliar with the pony race at this point.
Well, when you meet with Paizo this week, can you just put in a request for the pony race? That would be awesome. Thank you.
But I will make a far-fetched prediction. there will be some third-party publisher that will have already published rules.
Actually, there is a Pathfinder compatible game called Pony Finder where you can play ponies, and we will be playing that right after we finish Dead Sun.
Well, I'm ready to advance. I'm ready to go to Absalom Station.
I'm kind of feeling like we got to get into this and start doing it.
Yeah.
I'm in.
I'm ready.
I'm in.
Okay, so let's get started. You have all met each other. You've talked about the system, the station, cultures seem to be getting along. You've had some watered-down coffee and some stale donuts, and the shuttle pulls into docking bay number 94, where you leave and see in front of you a brightly lit dock of Absalom Station, and it is abuzz with activity as travelers bristle by, prepared to board or disembark from starships bound to or from any dozens of worlds. Brash and swaggering star pilots, scurrying Yosoki mechanics, hard-faced asteroid miners, imposing Vesk mercenaries, and more, creating a microcosm of abundance and a variety of life in the pack worlds. New arrivals meet friends, loved ones, or business contacts and are whisked away into the humming activity of daily life on the vast space station. Beyond them, ground crews tend to the dock ships, and dock workers and mechanized cargo lifters load and unload freight and baggage. A sharp tang of ozone hangs in the air, a byproduct of electrical discharges from the docked ships. But underneath, the station's atmosphere has a slightly used aroma. The docking bay's deck plates thrum beneath your feet, though whether it's from the passage of many, many feet or the vibrations of the station's power conduits and air recycling systems, it is impossible to say. Scanning through the crowd, you see a dwarf in front of you, waving at you, and he seems to say,
"Oh, hi, welcome to Absalom Station."
You look over and see Creel, who appears to be rather tall and lanky for a dwarf, with a bristling iron-gray beard and deep-set eyes beneath bushy eyebrows. With his patched and stained overalls, the dwarf looks like just another dock worker, but the badge bearing the symbol of the Starfinder Society stands out clearly on his chest. He quickly looks at his computer, looks back at you, and you're about to walk over when suddenly the dock starts to fill with screams as laser fire fills the air. A conduit is hit, sparks fly. The area is filled with gas and smoke as something else was hit, and Creel goes down in a crumble as he, too, is hit by the laser fire. So that means combat's about to begin, which means it's time for...
Roll for combat!
Nice.
So this is probably a good place to stop right now. We can pick up the next session, start with the combat, see how you guys work together as a team, find out if Creel is alive or dead, and hopefully you guys can live past the very first round of combat.
These guys really need to work on their welcoming committee.
Action number 1, I run away.
Yep, get used to that.
You're joking.
Foreshadowing.
Get used to that.
Foreshadowing.
So I'll see you guys next week on Roll for Combat.
You've been listening to Roll for Combat, a Starfinder actual play podcast. If you have a question or comment for the show, please visit us at rollforcombat.com or drop us a line at contact@rollforcombat.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and other social media platforms. You've been listening to Roll for Combat. Until next week, always remember it's all fun and games until the healer runs out of spells.